Hey everybody, this is Neil Kid here, and today I'm gonna talk to you about another fan fiction idea, Robot Boy Multiverse. This is my own sort of AU series that basically is kind of like a whole multiverse possibilities for the Cartoon Network series Robot Boy. So basically, this is one of my actual like most popular um, uh, fan fiction AU ideas right next to the Dexter's Lab and Sidekick and other ones. So basically, I'm pretty proud about this one. So basically, the Robot Boy multiverse is basically comprised of three separate alternate universes: Universe A, B, and C. So I'll basically go through each one and basically, and tell you about all of them. And yeah, that's gonna be the whole thing on that. So basically, Robot. The first one is Universe A, and that'll be the whole what I like to call the Robot Boy 12 years later series, where it basically takes place in the original timeline of Robot Boy. Yeah, I could have timed that better. Yeah, moving on. Basically, yeah, the 12 years later timeline is kind of like self explanatory, where more or less, basically, what we have here is that Robot Boy, Tommy, Gus, and Lola, basically, they're 12 years older. Basically, Tommy and Lola are college age, and now they're basically attending UCLA. They're basically, they're together. They're a couple, so and more or less, Gus is basically a personal trainer in San Francisco, and basically they still have Robot Boy. He's a robot. He never ages. So basically, all their major villains like Dr. Kamikaze or um and basically all the other ones um like basically uh and like basically all their major villains is basically more or less either retired or dead or in jail. So that's more or less their whole thing. Until, unfortunately, for them, um, Dr. Kamikaze basically is like, hey, I'm sick and tired of losing to Robot Boy. It's been 12 years, and basically, I'm in brain in the jar. So basically, I want revenge. But basically, he's coming back from retirement to come back to steal Robot Boy again, reverse engineer him, and basically finally take over the world finally, and basically one last ditch effort more or less. And Tommy, Lola, Gus, and Robot Boy had to deal with that. So that's basically the 12 years later timeline. Um, let's see. The other one is that Universe B is more or less the Robot Mom timeline. So the Robot Mom timeline is basically what happens where basically it's still in the it's basically where a young Tommy basically his mom Debbie Turnbull, the one character that everyone remembers because obvious reasons. Debbie Turnbull, Tommy's mom, basically discovers that Robot Boy is a thing, and more as an actual functioning fighting robot. Discovers Tommy's secret. All the while, Dr. Kamikaze, Constantine, and a bunch of animal mutants minions basically raided Tommy's home, and more or less one of the mutants shot Debbie Turnbull, pretty much fatally wounding her, and basically like, no. And of course, basically, Dr. Kamikaze is like, okay, yeah, that wasn't supposed to happen. Well, bye. And literally, yeah, he was kind of like, oh shit, that happened? Shit. But yeah, literally, right afterwards, Tommy, instead of going to a hospital, he takes her to Dr. Moshimo and is like, you gotta fix her, Doc. And literally, like, Professor Moshimo was like, okay, I'll try. And more or less, he kind of did pretty interesting thing where he injected Tommy's mom Debbie with experimental nanites that'll pretty much fix any kind of cellular damage, and it's a quick fix. But also gave her the same type of shapeshifting robot boy powers that Robotboy has. So basically, she's a genetically enhanced, or rather, cybernetically enhanced cyborg now, and more or less, that's where Debbie Turnbull became Robot Mom. So she can literally super activate herself to like a 12-foot tall version of herself, and more or less, you know, much like Robot Boy, she has all sorts of gadgets and stuff. Think, uh, think basically XJ9 from XJ9 from like My 11th Teenage Robot in terms of powers, only as cyborg. So with that being said, uh, David Turnbull kind of knows about all about Dr. Moshimo and Dr. Kamikaze, Professor Moshimo, Dr. Kamikaze, and Robot Boy now. And more or less like she kind of acts like a superhero chaperone to like Tommy, Lola, and Gus when they ever go on their adventures. And more or less, she tries to get a handle of her new powers and also trying to actually, hide that from her kind of idiot husband and son, basically Dwight and Donnie. So, all the while, another thing about this universe is that literally realizing that Doctor Professor Moshimo, I keep saying Doctor, basically healed um, Tommy's mom and basically turned her into a robot mom, and like Dr. Kamikaze is like, what the heck? I shot her dead and literally just she became a new creation of Moshimo's. What the hell? So literally, sorry, something in my eyes. Literally, he kind of like, okay, here's the idea. I'll just make a robot duplicate of her and basically, get rid of her, grab Robot Boy, and so I could take over the world. And of course, that doppelganger of his basically turned out to be almost a complete identical match to W in terms of physicality and physiology. So literally, she sent away to Tommy's house while Robot Mom and Robot Boy basically out fighting a monster on the other side of the world. And at first, like Tommy's like, "Oh, hey, Mom." I was like, "Wait, something's different about you." Literally, he catches on that she's acting weird and more or less got to the realization like, oh yeah, you must be a doppelganger. And it's literally, Debbie Turnbull shows up now as Robot Mom, basically beats the doppelganger and more or less kind of like detains the doppelganger enough to actually reprogram her, like give her like free will, more or less. And more or less, that's yeah, well, it's more like she basically slowly come to realization that basically she became self-aware and more or less rebelled against Dr. Kamikaze, and they fight, and she basically ended up as a good guy, and more or less like nitty gritty of it, ends up becoming her own person, and basically and seeing how in order to reprogram her, they basically had to reprogram her with the brainwaves of Debbie herself. So basically, not only she's a good guy now and reprogrammed to be a good guy, but also she gained free will and more or less became sort of a sister to Debbie. Basically, like a weird younger sister to Debbie, seeing how they kind of share enough essence of one another that basically, that kind of, is it's a kind of weird setup. But yeah, basically, Doppelganger, they reprogram her with some sci-fi stuff, and now Debbie got a new sister and a new Tommy got a new aunt. So robot aunt. So the last one I'll say is Universe C, and this is actually kind of one that a lot of people like. So Robot Boy Universe C is basically what will happen if like it's already kind of implied through all the various Asian dubs of Robot Boy the series that like basically Tommy is always voiced by a girl in most Asian dubs like Japanese dub, the Chinese dub, the Kazakhstan dub. Basically, what I have it here is basically Tommy is really an actual uh, girl in this universe named Tammy Turnbull, but she's a tomboy. Get it? and more or less, she always kind of this guy like she always like presents herself as a boy when she was younger, like when she was like really young because she was kind of embarrassed to be a girl who's into like typically boyish stuff like video games, comic books, robotics. So with that being said, that's sort of the whole thing with Tammy in this universe. But when she hit puberty, well, let's just say it's kind of hard for her to actually, um, hide her gender at that point because she kind of shares her mom's like extreme hourglass figure now. So literally, she's kind of like, well, can't hide anymore. Guys, I'm a girl. Was it? Wait, what? You always been a girl? Yep. Kind of. Yeah, I know it's kind of weird, but So literally, Tammy Turnbull basically, reveals herself as a girl to her friends, and Lola could have been happier because she has like her crush got hotter, more or less in her opinion. It's like, oh my god, this is so perfect, and like Gus is like, dude, you're a girl this whole time. You could have told me that earlier. And of course, basically, it's a very cool thing to have that. So basically, man, because literally Lola and Tammy in this universe basically hook up when they get a college age and stuff, and more or less like I want to have it where basically like Tammy's a super genius girlfriend, and basically Lola it will be the actual rich girlfriend that just supplies her with all the things she needs. Think like it's very much like a very loving superhero type of relationship where basically they one's super smart, one's super rich. Who knew? So, but yeah, that's sort of the whole thing with Robotboy Multiverse. There's three of them, and I had three different storylines when it comes to them, but all revolve around Robotboy, a pretty good cartoon from the early 2000s that a lot of people kind of don't like, but I kind of like for my own reasons. I kind of like the series. It's literally Mega Man meets Metabots. What's wrong with that? I mean, yeah, I mean some episodes are a lot more weirder than others, but that's typical for a early 2000s cartoon. So, but yeah, that's been my idea of Robot Boy Multiverse, and yeah, and I hope you guys like that idea. And this has been Okinawa Kid signing out.